today's challenging job market, a negative review can easily result in the candidate being disqualified from further consideration. Because professional praise or criticisms can make or break your chances of landing a job, it is imperative that you choose your references wisely. When you face an interviewer, the most important thing is how you present or sell yourself. This can be the deciding factor on whether or not you will get a job. As we have discussed in earlier episodes, when it comes to applying for a job, your CV is the first chance you will have to make a lasting first impression. This simple document will help you get your foot in the door, get an interview, and inevitably help you land a job. Before we move into what goes into the structure of a CV, let's first look at, on a high level, what recruiters or employers look out for during their CV screening process.
Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 4 of season 2 of the Job Hunt Preparation series. I'm Kwame Beny Smith, and as usual, will be your host for today's discussion. In today's presentation, we'll be discussing best ways to address the interview question. What are your weaknesses? We will discuss what the question means, why interviewers ask this question, what the expectation from the panel is, and best ways to respond to this question. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please ensure to do so, as I'll be releasing videos every week. And also, if you like the content of this video, remember to share and give it a thumbs up. Okay, so to the main discussion for today. This is one of the trickiest interview questions candidates face at most interviews, and one that you must always prepare for. It can be hard to answer this question, especially when you expect to be discussing the skills, talents, and capability that make you the strongest candidate for the job. And all of a sudden, you have to now talk about the things that make you unfavorable for the role. Framing your weakness positively can be challenging, but when you combine self-awareness with an action plan, you can quickly stand apart from other job applicants. There is a cliche to answering this question, which is to identify weaknesses that still communicate your strength. Yes, this is good, as this will show the interviewer you are introspective enough to know your areas of opportunity. Nonetheless, it is an old trick, and interviewers see right through it easily. They have seen many candidates try the same trick over and over again. So now the question is, how best do you respond to this question? And that is exactly why we are here today. So without wasting much time, let's move straight into it. So to the first aspect of this presentation, why do interviewers ask this question? The main reason why interviewers ask this question is to get past your nice presentable interview pretense and get a sense of what you are really like to work with. I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Even if you don't answer honestly, your answer tells them something about you, and if you refuse to answer the question, it makes the interviewer wonder if you've got some scary secret weaknesses that you don't want them to know. So then, how do you respond to such a question? In responding to such a question, you first need to identify the weakness, and in doing that, describe a raw weakness that wouldn't be a major handicap on the job. You need to be genuine about your weakness. Don't just select any weakness. You need to be sincere about it, and that doesn't mean you have to share a weakness that makes you look so bad. Most people have several weaknesses, and at least one of them will be interview friendly. The next thing to do is to pick a weakness that is acceptable for the job at hand. Before the interview, ensure to review the job requirements thoroughly and identify key elements from the job descriptions as well as the person specification, and ensure not to cite a weakness related to any of the required skills or desired qualities of the role. If you're a mechanic, don't talk about losing your tools. If you're in sales, don't confess to being too reserved or lacking persistence. Also, look for a weakness that is easily fixable and does not impact your work performance greatly. The weakness you select should be something you can easily fix through a conscious effort, work, or motivation. An example of such weakness would be getting nervous when speaking in front of large groups of people. This is very common and fixable through continuous practice and learning of new skills. If you should pick a weakness like being shy and often having trouble speaking up in meetings, while there is nothing wrong with you being shy, an interviewer could assume that you would have trouble collaborating in a team environment. This is a personality quality that will be more difficult to change. And for that reason, if you should select such a weakness, you must go further to explain how you are working to resolve this. As such, in your selection, be sure to choose ones that are easily fixable. The second thing to talk about or to consider when responding to this question is to talk about how you are working to improve that weakness. Share with the panel the efforts you have put in to improve on that weakness. This shows that you are self-aware, you have the drive to be your best, and that weakness will not slow you down or hinder your performance at work. Now that we know how to address this question, let's look at a few examples of some bad responses and good responses. Some of the examples of the bad responses to this question of weakness include: example 1. On your screen is a job advert for an attendant at a restaurant. Notice the advert indicates they are looking for someone who shows up on time every day, works well under pressure, has the ability to stay professional, has the ability to work in a fast-paced team environment, has a positive, cheerful and friendly attitude, can pay attention to detail, speed, accuracy, follow through, and multitasking, can learn and retain information, has good listening skills and the ability to follow instructions. Now, based on the affirmation job advert, an example of a bad response would be: thank you very much. One of my weaknesses is I have an anger management issue. I tend to blow up when someone makes me angry or nervous. Don't get me wrong, I like people, but I'm just quick-tempered. I don't have a high tolerance for nonsense or stupidity. I'm working on it though. I've been doing volunteer work with seniors to develop patience and empathy. I have a couple of regulars who are bad-tempered as well, and we get along fine. The job offer specifically states that the ideal candidate should be positive, cheerful, and friendly. If that's not you, you are not qualified for this job. And in this response, admitting to a weakness that is necessary for the job will surely not get you the role. Another example of a bad response will be: thank you. When it comes to one of my weaknesses, I have terrible time management and organizational skills. I'm one of those people who procrastinates and puts things off until the very last minute. I've made up for it over the years because I'm a certified genius. Where others would crash and burn if they leave things undone, I flourish. So I may look like I'm doing nothing, I may sit in the middle of a mess, but I will always meet the deadline, even if it's 5 minutes from the time I start the work. Now, this type of answer raises all kinds of red flags for the hiring manager. Yes, let's say you meet all deadlines, but can you turn in quality work at the last minute? I doubt. What about that mess you create? What kind of mess are you even talking about? Well, that's not considerate at all, and obviously you wouldn't get a role. Now let's shift our concentration to some of the examples of a good response. My first example of a good response will be: my greatest weakness is that I'm a shy and nervous person by nature. The result is that I have a difficult time speaking up in groups. Even if I have a good idea, I have trouble asserting them. Often I keep them to myself. In this first aspect of the response, the candidate is admitting a common and raw weakness. At the same time, it is not the best answer if the job requires public speaking skills. Make sure you tailor your response to the job description. The candidate goes on to say: once, I suggested an idea for a project. The project manager shut it down and I did not protest. My supervisor heard about my idea. It upset him that I didn't fight harder for it. Here is a situation where the candidate's weakness caused her to fail at work. Now he goes on to say: I decided that it was time to sign up for speaking classes. I also took some acting classes. The acting classes helped me learn to separate my professional self from my shy self. That helped me a lot. Now the candidate talks about the steps he took to improve his weaknesses. He took classes that he felt would help relieve his shyness at work. He continues: the next time I worked on a project, I stood by my ideas. I spoke up and asked the project manager to take a second look at what I had proposed. She agreed that my idea was quite good upon reflection. My supervisor noticed the improvement and promoted me to management. I now head up a team of 5 people despite being shy. Now the candidate points out how her actions have resulted in success. It is okay if you don't have a success story for your grand finale. All you need to do is show that you are taking steps to improve now and in the future. Another example of a good response will be: I think one area I could improve on is my delegation skills. I'm always so concerned about everything being done right, and I can get stuck in the mentality of if you want it done right, do it yourself. Unfortunately, that's not always possible, and I've realized that I can actually end up slowing things down if I'm too controlling. I learned this recently when given the opportunity to manage the department's interns. I had never managed direct reports before, so this was a huge educational experience in many different ways. It definitely taught me how to delegate. My manager noticed the difference in my management style at the end of the internship. I know that I can benefit from additional development in this area, so I signed up for a management skills training course, and I'm always looking for opportunities to manage projects for our group. This is a great example of a junior level employee in a role in which delegation abilities are not critical. Please note that the last sentence in the first paragraph is important because it acknowledges how the weakness can be a problem and why it's worth working on it. The weakness is acknowledged and described, but the emphasis is more on how the candidate has sought out ways to improve. Keep in mind that this is not such a terrific answer if you are applying for a job that requires you to manage people. Let's take a look at another example. Thank you for the opportunity. One of my weaknesses, I would say, is that sometimes I can be a bit too honest when I provide feedback to co-workers. My personality is naturally very straightforward and to the point, and most of my colleagues really value that. But I've learned that there are times on the job when more diplomacy is required. I took a training class on conflict management, and it really opened my eyes to the need to communicate differently with different people. So now I'm much better at providing constructive feedback, even if it doesn't always come naturally. This weakness is described very well. The candidate knows how directness has been a weakness, while also making it clear that he is not a harsh person towards his co-workers. In the second part, he talks about concrete steps that he has taken and how he has improved. Another example we can also talk about is, honestly, I would say that public speaking is an area that I could work on. I tend to get nervous when asked to present to a large group of people. In small teams, I'm the first one to stand up and present, but put me in front of a bigger group and I can get frustrated. I actually spoke to my manager about this, and we set it as one of my developmental goals for this year. I took an internal presentation skills class and attended some meetings of Toastmasters, a networking group for people who want to practice public speaking. With some practice, I started to feel more comfortable. Last month, I even volunteered to represent our team at a division-wide town hall. I only had to present for 10 minutes, but I did it and got great feedbacks. It was actually kind of fun, so I plan on continuing to seek out opportunities to improve in this area. Fear of public speaking is a common fear. In this sample response, the candidate makes it clear that she has no trouble communicating in general. This would have been a red flag. It's just getting up in front of a bigger group that scares her. She goes on to describe how she identified the weakness, spoke with her manager about it, and then took proactive steps to improve. She even had a little triumph at the end. And my last example of a good response to share will be, because I truly love my work and have ambitious career goals, it can be difficult for me to keep a healthy balance between work and my personal life. I've seen a negative impact on my motivation and focus when I ignore my personal needs. As a result, I've made it a point to focus on creating space in my schedule to focus on volunteering and spending time with my family. Taking small actions like putting my phone on silence during dinner time is helpful. When I maintain a good work-life balance, I've found my output is more qualitative, I can get more work done, and I feel excited about coming to work in the morning. In this response, the candidate explains the ways he has learned to balance life and work and how he has seen his work improve as a result. He also goes ahead to explain how work-life balance is something he finds important in the role he's applying for. Alright, this brings us to the end of episode 4 of season 2 of the Job Hunt Preparation series. In our next episode, we'll be discussing into details how to address the interview question, do you enjoy working in a team environment? If you need access to my ebook, Ultimate Guide to Job Hunting, which will expose you to expert tips and secrets to landing a great job, then reach out by calling the number on your screen. This contact can also be found at the description section of this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because I'll be sharing videos with a lot more expert tips every week. And remember to share your comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the very best in your pursuits to passing your interview. See you in the next video.